Thank you very much for coming on Tea and Tech, John.
Excellent.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
It's wonderful to be here.
So you've just finished, you've been filming the latest series of the Gadget Show?
Yes, we're in the middle of that at the moment. I think it's now series 22. Yes,
how many years is that?
2004 we started,
wow.
so it's it's about 11 or so. And I mean, we're trying to do a few changes for this series.
What can we look forward to this year?
Well, I mean, I'm going to still be doing my sort of tests, but they're supposed to have a slightly larger story attached. So rather than just doing the Apple Watch or doing we've got to sort of, do you need a smartwatch?
That's a very good question. If I have an Apple Watch, now you mention it here, and can I get your take on it? What's your opinion on it?
It's the best smartwatch I've sort of tried. I mean, normally I tend to find smartwatches as a bit of a nuisance. Actually,
Yeah,
I
would agree. Actually,
another thing charge to remember to get into the habit of using. I did find the Apple Watch did start to convert me really, but actually almost for very traditional reasons. I found it very handy to be able to answer a call on it, for example. That was because I'm always leaving my phone on silent or in another room. Great. That's
quite useful.
Yes, a family member or whatever is calling you, and you can even in FaceTime calls and like. You can also do a sort of very quick start of a conversation, then get hold of the phone and continue with it. Discrete text messages over dinner.
That's true. Well, that's the thing about smartwatches. People, I think the worst thing you can do socially is get your phone out while you're at dinner, and you wouldn't dream of answering a call or a text while you're at a nice dinner with someone. Yeah. But if a message came up on your watch, you're more likely to just quickly read it. Yeah.
Yes, I mean emails.
People might not be so keen on that.
Slightly less convincing, even in spite of the digital crowd being able to scroll through them. There was too much. Gosh, that's just a whole load of text on that tiny screen. It's far too difficult to read, and quite a bit of it. Well, obviously, a lot of the content of the just couldn't be displayed at all, so you'd have to go straight back to the phone again. That was less good. I found actually the eBay app for the watch was really quite good.
Oh, really?
You actually got lots of good notifications of bids received. I think not that I actually do much activity on eBay, but I just found that was an app that really did work. Whereas I found the Twitter one, so it was actually quite frustrating because it didn't seem to. It didn't seem to do very much.
Android Wear, you're not a big fan?
I certainly the ones I've tried, I didn't find myself wanting to use. I found them quite a chore so far, but I haven't tried the latest.
Well, I see that we're both using traditional watches anyway.
Very traditional.
Regardless of our technology enthusiasm.
Well, there is that. Although I didn't actually miss not using the Apple Watch anymore, but I thought I was going to slightly. And I tend to be more of an Android phone person, so. I didn't feel it was worth changing my operating system for an Apple Watch.
What phone do you use at the moment?
At the moment, it's an Xperia Z3 Compact, which I've had for about 5 years. But it's all right. I mean, the camera's not quite as good as it should be, which is its biggest drawback. I think the battery life is brilliant.
They have the Xperias are very good.
Well, this particular one. I mean, it is a phone you can actually confidently use continuously through the day without any fear that it's going to run out. And I found actually on the Apple Watch, it seemed to have a rather negative effect on the iPhone 6's battery.
Oh, really?
On the actual 6? I may be wrong in that. That was because I'm not normally.
Well, if it's constantly paired with a Bluetooth device, it's going to have some impact.
There's an argument you could save battery life because you're looking at the phone screen rather than
That's a good point.
Rather than looking at the watch screen rather than the phone screen. But that didn't seem to work for me, and that was the biggest relief coming back to Xperia after a couple of weeks with an iPhone 6. Just being able to use it. I mean, I was running around for a charger late afternoon so often, and also worse still, deciding not to do something on the phone because the battery might.
Well, that's true. You have all these fancy apps and ways of using it, but you're afraid to use it.
I know, it just seemed really disappointing. If only it was a few millimetres thicker. And in fact, the iPhone 6S battery is supposed to be even smaller. Yes.
When will they learn?
Well, maybe. Well, they obviously don't have to because there's
people will buy it anyway.
They're selling brilliantly.
Have you seen I was at Berlin last week with the IFA exhibition, and have you seen the new Sony Xperia Z5 Premium, the 4K one?
The one with the 4K screen.
I'm not so sure.
I think it would challenge my my eyesight somewhat. 4K on the phone.
But imagine the battery. It must. I mean, it's 4 times as many pixels.
That would be. But on the other hand, but at the same time, if you want with the compact one, I noticed they'd actually still kept the resolution of the screen down.
Yes, still 720 on the small one.
So which would be good for me because I don't tend to watch a lot of video content on my phone. I mean, not as a sort of I'll settle down and watch.
You'll enjoy a nice visual feast with it.
It's not really an issue. It's always struck me as not particularly an issue.
Something that interested me was the fact that there was a report saying that the new 4K Z5 actually downscales just to 1080p when it plays games to save battery. So, and being a 5.5-inch phone, it would make the normal £100 cheaper Z5 sharper for games because it doesn't downscale as a small phone. So I'm not convinced 4K phones are the future.
Well, maybe not. Maybe not unless we actually start wanting very large phones.
iPad Pros,
type
things. So in my research for this little chat we're having, I did a little bit of research. You'll be surprised to learn. And I came across a Radio Times quote about you. I don't know.
Really? Right.
And I'll have to read it out so I get it word for word perfect, because it describes you and you coming back to the Gadget Show a couple of years ago.
Ah, right.
And the Radio Times described you, Jon Bentley, as smart, proper, and quintessentially British, with a joyful sense of mischief.
Oh gosh, right.
Do you think that sums you up?
I think it was a very flattering description. The article was drawn to my attention when it came out, and what is it?
But you're very enthusiastic. I think your presence on the Gadget Show adds. Well, I'm certainly a big fan of yours on the show. I think the way you present, the way you're so enthusiastic with your gesticulations more than anything else.
Yes, I'll try and do them. Yes, I am. I think I'm always have been really quite enthusiastic about things I'm interested in.
And you've always been interested in tech since?
Yes.
Forever?
As a child, I used to mess about with televisions. I used to mend them and repair them, and occasionally sell them, which was actually was moderately profitable. I mean, not in any huge business, but it enabled me to buy my first camera. I remember from that.
I see, right.
So that was the first proper camera. So that was good. And I used to try and build things. I used to do a lot of photography.
You still do?
I still do. Yes, I still do photography. I don't think I've ever sort of got beyond the stage of just being a sort of bumbling amateur at photography. But nevertheless,
I'm not far beyond that myself.
I'm still an enthusiast, definitely.
So most people will know you from Channel 5's The Gadget Show.
Yes.
You've been on there
since 2004. Started.
Yes. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
And before that, you were a producer on Top Gear for 12
Mainly,
years?
yes. I did produce, yes.
And Fifth Gear
like that. Yeah, a little bit of Fifth Gear. I did Top Gear from 84 to 99, 78, something like 98, 98, 99. Yes, that was started as a researcher and then became...
That must have been a lot of fun.
Oh, it was all huge fun.
Because you're a big car man yourself.
Yes.
Tech and cars?
Yes, whether I've probably not kept up an interest in new cars. As much as I should do. I think, in part, that might have been through a bit of frustration that they weren't changing very much. And I think one thing we can look forward to is more change in cars in the near future.
I think Tesla cars are one of the most exciting things you can get these days.
They're still waiting for the supercharge station to do its
half
hour or whatever.
That's true. You're not sitting in a petrol station for 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
I still think would be pretty wearing, especially if you paid 90 grand for the car or somehow whatever they are.
It's a good start.
Like that,
it's a good start.
For the fast ones, anyway.
Curved TVs. What are your thoughts?
Oh, no, it's interesting that. I mean, it's one of the tests we've got coming up in the show is we're trying to isolate the differences between formats, whether you should buy an ordinary HD or a 4K or a 4K.
That'd be quite interesting. Have you filmed that yet?
It's sort of. I haven't seen the final edit yet, so I'm having. But my suspicion is that for me, I think we've still got a long way to go actually in terms of resolution, and so whether. I think what will impress, what gives you the most value for your extra expenditure, if you're thinking whatever you're thinking investing in, is the extra resolution. I know we're a long way off from everything being in 4K, but
that was the same case for HD at one point.
It was, that's true. Yeah, but I still, because when you think an HD picture, and especially normal broadcast HD picture, which normally isn't full HD, is only a megapixel, and we're so used now to seeing very high resolution stills images. Yes. I still think. What impresses people most is just a high-resolution moving image.
I think you're right. I think going back to this E for this year, the big thing this year for TVs was 4K, as we've had it for a couple of years. Still a bit of curved, although according to one source I spoke to, for every, I think it was in LG, every 19 flat TVs they sell one curved. So it's not making an economic case. Right. So people like Samsung who are really pushing the curved, I think perhaps this year perhaps they haven't got a lot else to do, perhaps.
Oh, right. I always think they aesthetically they do look.
They look nicer. I agree with you. I think in a room they look a bit more stylish, a bit more futuristic. Although I'm not sure about putting them on the wall. Stick out presumably a little bit, wouldn't they?
Yes, although I personally I always like looking slightly down at a TV rather than.
I agree.
Rather than
yes, I'm the same with you on that. But I was still surprised that curved TVs are still they're pushing them, and it was quite funny.
Because they're much more expensive.
They are. There's a premium for it, isn't there? But one thing that amused me was Samsung had a booth where they showed flat versus curved, and you'll agree that there's, except for a bit of immersion, there's no picture quality difference.
No, given the panel.
Assuming it's the same TV, one's curved, one's flat, there should be an identical picture.
Yes.
Except perhaps slightly less colour fade off at the edge, perhaps slightly more immersive, perhaps. But no visible picture or quality or colour difference. Right. But what they were doing on their booth was they were upping the contrast and the saturation on the curved model. And they did some fancy techie sort of demo show, and it said contrast enhanced. So they actually said it on the show, and basically they made the curved TV look a lot nicer than a flat TV.
Oh, that's not. I mean, yes,
that's marketing.
I got some Sony music player, which was supposedly. I mean, the idea was you obviously be able to enjoy your lossless files on it, but it also they had a demo mode for lossless versus MP3, and then not only were the lossless files played at about twice the volume, so that's clearly designed to impress you. They'd also chose about almost something ridiculously low bit rate for the MP3, something like 96 or something.
So there's definitely a quality difference.
So there was yes. So it was tried to.
Do you think lossless audio is worth? Can you hear it?
Yes, I'm obviously not the most useful listener, so there could be a factor there. Personally, I don't think I would spend a lot of money getting lossless files myself.
No, I don't think I would either. I mean, you used to work on Top Gear. That was exclusively broadcast, and now it's become exclusively on-demand streaming, which is something that not a lot of people anticipated. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, the thought was. Well, I mean, in the wider thought it conjures up is when are we ready for the new models of television to take off? I mean, it's been quite slow happening, hasn't it? I mean, mainly because, I mean, as you say, down here you don't find your internet connection is not very quick. And I think that's probably still ultimately at the root of it, as whether the TV will move from the basic broadcast model to the more app-based model that we see on Roku boxes and Apple TVs and so forth. What is good about it all is that you get more and more car programs, because I mean, I can recall. Well, I mean, there were literally hundreds. I mean, you would. I mean, back when I started on Top Gear, we had to try and persuade BBC bosses that there was any interest whatsoever in this subject.
It's amazing, isn't it?
And now you could fill your PVR with classic car programs alone. I mean,
Discovery
so many.
and all that. Yeah,
and that is wonderful. That is a good thing.
But arguably, the Top Gear thing was a little more entertaining than Fifth Gear didn't do quite so well because that was very much more car oriented.
Well, I mean, Jeremy and Andy reinvented Top Gear magnificently for the 21st century as an entertainment show. That's fantastic. And that is sort of taking the whole car thing on more. I mean, hopefully, one would ideally like the BBC now also to move things on in a new second generation for the 21st century entertainment car show, as well as maybe Top Gear also the old Top Gear reinventing itself with Jeremy.
Yeah, you get more.
So you just get more interesting car programs. I mean, who knows what they're thinking of, but I would have thought, given that a team of that quality, they ought to be able to come up with something new and of interest, and I certainly will be.
Chris Evans, what do you think?
Well, I mean, but then Chris Evans also is very splendidly talented chap and a car enthusiast. I mean, if he's got the time to do it, and if the BBC can focus themselves and perhaps bring along a new generation. Because I mean, Jeremy was 28 or whatever when he started.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting on a bit, the old lads, aren't they?
So, I mean, but it'd be good to see what people's views are of people in their 20s now about cars, and is that something that can be made an entertaining car show? I mean, that's an analytical way of looking at it in a way, but it'd be nice to, it'd be good if that were the case. But I mean, it may not come from the BBC, it may come from because I mean, there's nothing to stop you making a car programme now if you want to.
What's exciting Jon Bentley at the moment?
What's exciting? Oh gosh, blimey. I mean, there's
lots of things going on, but what appeals to you right now?
I'm still interested in future car developments and how they'll, I mean, I suspect it's probably going to be the halfway between self-driving and not self-driving cars. That's probably going to be the where it goes, because I mean the sort of handheld computer devices we've seen, if anything, reaching a bit of a little bit of a plateau, isn't it?
I think so.
That they're not as exciting, really.
Well, it's true. I mean, if you look at Apple, I mean, the new iPhone release was a big, exciting thing people would sort of almost look forward to. But now it's becoming, I don't know if you've seen the conference for the 6S.
I got about halfway through it.
It's a slightly newer processor, 4K camera. That's all nice. You've got those live photos. It's not an awful lot. It's not an awful lot. And to some people, and me included,
it is interesting, but it's not massively revolutionary or exciting. But other areas of life are. I mean, changing the education system. So you do a completely different type of degree. For example, you do it in a much shorter time. You do it in a different place without actually going. I mean, those sort of social changes actually become much more exciting, I think, than
just new hardware.
Changes in a very marginally different hardware, unless the hardware is radically different. Then he's exciting.
When's the new series of the Gadget Show starting?
Well, we're starting in on 21st of September, and I'll continue doing my tests, but with a bit more wider story attached and a team of tech testers. We're also doing some more versus challenges. We'll continue those, which
that was good fun.
People like, so we do try and beat a sort of police department at solving a crime or something like that, which is that's all pretty good.
Well, thank you very much for coming and joining me on Tea and Tech.
Jolly good.